Hare Krishna. Theoretically, we are alive now. Okay, it is July 11th, 2021. So we have some very interesting verses today, continuing about the amazing birth of Parikshit Maharaj, saved by Lord Vishnu personally. We're starting with 1:12:10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So 1:12:10. Astratejak Sagadaya Niharam Iva Gopatihi Vidhamantang Sannikarshe Paryaikshata Kaityasau. So Astratejak means the fire, the power of the astra, of the weapon thrown by Ashwatthama. So Astratejak, so Krishna Swagadaya, with his club. Gada means club. So Gadadhara, not Gadadhara. Gadadhara, the name of one of Lord Chaitanya's most intimate associates, means the one who holds a club, Gadadhara. So here, Swagadaya, with his own club. And then Niharam Eva Gopati. Here's an Eva, an analogy. Like the sun dispels nihara. Prabhupada translates it here as drops of dew. It can also mean fog or mist, or also dew. So just like the sun burns through the fog, burns through the mist, and it makes it vanish, so that you can have a very like a cloudy day or mist or fog, and then when the sun burns through, suddenly it's blue sky. So it just completely eradicates it. So that's the idea. Niharam eva gopati. Gopati is interesting. It's a word for sun. And to understand this, go means, of course, cow, but also means other things. It also means stars, because the poetic idea in the Rig Veda was that just as there are great herds of cows, we can imagine that many, many thousands of years ago, the time of the Vedas, there were these great herds of cows roaming about the land. And so when you see all the stars in the sky, especially if you ever actually see all the stars, because nowadays there's so much pollution and what astronomers call light pollution. So it's really rare for most people, unless they live in a very special place. It's very rare for most people to actually see all the stars. When you do, it really fills the sky. And so the stars fill the sky. So therefore, the stars were poetically compared with herds of cows. Like there's just these limitless herds, rebaño in Spanish or Portuguese, just these herds of stars. And so the sun, being the lord of the stars, Gopati. So that's the idea for that word, which means sun here. So just as the sun, vidhamantam, the act of vanishing, Prabhupada says, and it's an interesting word. So I'll go to the dictionary. So the verb is vidam. V is a prefix, vidam, which in Sanskrit means to blow away, to scatter, disperse, destroy. So here the idea is blowing away, scattering, dispersing this astratejas, this power of the weapon thrown by this fire, this burning weapon thrown by Svatama. So Vidhamantam Sannikarshe. Sannikarshe means very close. So Vishnu is actually very close to this embryo who is about to take birth, as we'll see in the next verse or two, that it was in Sanskrit, we say 9 months because we use the solar calendar. So it's 9 solar months is a normal pregnancy, whereas a normal pregnancy would be 10 lunar months because they're shorter. So Parikshit Maharaj was just about to come out of the womb. And so suddenly Krishna comes to this club and he's just burning away or driving away all the power of this weapon. And here's a very interesting word, pariyakshata, kayitya. So this is a play on Parikshit's his name, because the name Parikshit comes from pari, which means like around, all around, and iks, which means to look around, literally. So here it says pari, this is just the past tense of that verse, pariksh, and so it means pariyakshata, he looked around. So it's interesting. He looked around in a sense. That's the etymology of his name. Therefore, he's Parikshit, because when he first saw the Lord, he looked around like, what is going on here in the womb? And who is this person? So therefore, Pariksh, this verb, pariksh, also can mean to search for. I'll tell you, actually, give you the meaning from the dictionary because it's interesting and it is the source of Parikshit's name. So this verb, pariyaksh, means to look around, inspect carefully, to examine, to observe, to perceive. So Parikshit was observing, examining, he was finding out, he was inspecting carefully, he was looking all around. And why was he looking around? Because that's the next, kayitya so. Who indeed is that? So kayitya so means he said, who is that? Who is that? So that's how he was examining, he was investigating as this little, of course, as a great soul, just 10 lunar months old. And so Prayakshata, Kaitya Selkas, who indeed is this? Who is that? And so he's looking around like this. Then Vidhuya Tarameyatma Bhagavan Dharma Gupti Bhu Mishato Dashamasasya Tatraivantar Dadhe Hari. So Vidhuya shaking off all that danger, that weapon. Vidhuya, it's a word which is used in the Bhagavatam as a synonym for purification, and literally the Vidhu, this verb means to shake about, move to and fro, like sometimes like you shake a rug to get all the dust off of it. So to shake off, drive away, scatter, disperse, remove, destroy. So all that is this verb. So Vidhuya, so the Lord doing that. And Ameya means immeasurable, from the verb ma, to measure, and then from which we get matra, like from which we get words like metric, meter, and so on and so forth, measure. So meya means measurable, ameya means immeasurable. So ameya atma, the immeasurable soul, which is kind of an ironic statement because, as we know, Krishna was just a thumb measure, right? He was just a thumb measure. And yet this little form of Vishnu is a thumb measure is actually an immeasurable soul. So this immeasurable soul shaking off, destroying that weapon, Bhagavan, the Lord, Dharmagu, protector of Dharma, Vibhu, the Almighty, Mishato Dashamasasya. So Dasha means 10. That's where we get words like decimal, right? Decimal system of tens, or decade 10 years, decade 10 years. So, and masa is month. So dasha masasya, of that 10-month-old child who is mishataha, who is looking on. So mishato, so this 10-month-old baby still in the womb is just looking wide, just looking at all this. So as he was looking on, Parikshit, tatraiva, right there. Tatra means there, and tatraiva means right there, right there. Antar the Hari, the Lord vanished. And the word for vanished, antar the day, is interesting. Literally, he placed himself within, like to place within. It's like there's sort of space, the external world that we can see, and there's the notion of there's inner space. And so to sort of be placed or place yourself within, not in the external visible world, is a very common way to say that someone disappeared. So right there, Hari vanished, right there, as the 10-month-old baby was looking on. Mishato dashamasasya. So that's that verse. Then tatak sarvaguno darke sanukula grahodaye. Very interesting. Jajne or Jagye Vangshadharak Pandur Bhuyak Pandur Ivojasa. So tatak, thereupon, then Sarvaguno Darke Sanukula Grahodaye, when there was an udaya arising, literally, aya means going, ud means up, so an upgoing, a rising and arising of graha, planets, or constellations, Prabhupada says, which are sa anukula. Kula means kind of like the current or the bank, and so it's like it's a word which Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses to say, or is it Rupa Goswami, to say like favorable, like anukulyasya sankalpa, accepting what is favorable for devotional service. So the word for favorable, anukulya, is from this anukula, so which means sort of following the current. So let's look it up in the dictionary quickly. Anukula means following the bank. It's like the bank. So in other words, or following the slope. So in English, you say things like going with the grain, like the grain of the wood, and not going against the grain. So the way you say that, kind of going with the flow, literally going with the flow, is anukula. And so devotional service, which kind of goes with the flow, and which means not just it goes with the flow in the sense that it's consistent, it's coherent, it's going the right way. You're not trying to swim against the current. You're sort of going with the flow of Krishna consciousness. So that is anukula or anukulya, which means to be in that state, and it's translated as favorable. Anukulyasya sankalpa. And then the opposite of anukula is pratikula, counter flow, going against the current, going against the flow. So then another thing which is good for devotional service is pratikulyasya varjanam, giving up everything which is unfavorable. We translated unfavorable. Literally, it's pratikulya, that which goes against the current, that which goes against the flow, against the natural order of things. So those are the words anukula. So here, in this verse, we have the word sa with anukula. So with favorable grahodaye. So with the rising of sort of the favorable planets, of planets that go with the current of a great life, of what everyone wants and expects, what everyone needs Parikshit to be. So it's going along with that. And so planets which indicate all these favorable signs are now rising. And they are planets which udarka, sarvaguna udarka, sort of portend. The word portend in English means, for those who don't know this word, to be a sign or warning that something especially momentous or calamitous is likely to happen. So it sort of predicts. It's an indication. It's a harbinger. A harbinger is a person or thing that announces or signals the approach of something, of another thing. So that's sort of Udarka. Arka, interestingly, means the sun or light, because this word Arka, like what is that famous verse? Puranarka, that the Bhagavatam is called the Purana sun, is rising, the Purana sun. So now that Krishna has left for his abode, the sun of this Purana, of the Bhagavatam, is now rising. So Arka means sun, and it comes from the root arch. It's the same root from which we get the word archana, which means worship or deity worship. So these things are, I find very interesting. So the word arka from the root arch, which also means to glow. So arka can be a ray, a flash of lightning. It can mean the sun, which is, of course, the source of all the rays and flashes in our world, or fire. And then if we look at the root, it comes from the word arch, from which we get archa, deity worship, archanam. You all know that word. So arch can mean to honor or treat with respect or to praise, hence archana, honoring or respecting the deity or glorifying the deity, which comes to mean deity worship, archana. It can also mean to something which shines, and therefore it means arc. From there you get arca, the sun. So udarka literally means like the light is coming up, or the sun, like the sun rise, literally. And so it means something that indicates stuff that's going to happen, So it can be the future result of actions, consequences, future time, a happy future. So it's indicating that something good is about to happen. So that's the word udarka. Give you an idea. So all this is going on in the Sanskrit. So this is sarva guna udarke. So then when there was this indication, happy indication of sarvaguna, of all good qualities, that sarvaguna, that Parikshit would have all good qualities. The word guna in Sanskrit, just like the word quality in English, it can mean a good quality, like a quality product, a quality anything, a quality person, or it can just mean, it can have a neutral sense, like, yeah, this person has, some good qualities, some bad qualities. So it's just like that in Sanskrit, the word guna. So with the rising of all these favorable planets, which are giving a happy indication that the king will have all good qualities, Jagye, he took birth. Parikshit took birth. Vangsha Dharak, as the sustainer of his dynasty, the Kuru or Pandava dynasty. It's interesting because Ashwatthama threw his weapon specifically to annihilate the Pandava line. And yet he failed. And so therefore Parikshit is taking birth as Vangsha, the dynasty, Dharak, as the one who sustains the dynasty, and so and who therefore personifies the failure of Ashwatthama to end the dynasty. The word Vangsha is also interesting. I mean, Sanskrit is just a very interesting language. Vangsha means bamboo, like Krishna's called Vangshidhara. So Vangshi means something made of bamboo, out of Vangsha, which in this case is a flute. It's a bamboo flute. So Dhara, Krishna, so it's interesting, Krishna's Vangshi Dhara, and here we have the word Vangshadhara, kind of a play on the words here. So if you look at bamboo, it grows, and then there's a knot, and then there's another growth and a knot, and then it spreads out. So you have all these little bamboo shoots coming up, these pipes. And so therefore, the word Vangsha is like a dynasty, because you have all these different segments, or these different people taking birth, and separated by time, separate this person, that person, and then it spreads out and the dynasty grows. And so for obvious reasons, a dynasty is compared to a bamboo plant. If you've ever seen them, they grow aggressively and in segments, and they expand.
So Vangsha also means dynasty, and here Parikshit is said to be that he took birth as the one who will sustain the dynasty Pandur of Pandu, and Bhuya Pandur. And he is again Pandu. He's like Pandu, Ojasa, by his power, by his potency, by his prowess, Ojasa, with his power, he is like Pandu coming again. And of course, Pandu is not talked about as much in the Bhagavatam. He's talked about more in the Mahabharata. So if you read the description of Pandu in the Mahabharata, you'll see he was, well, to use the common slang, one tough dude. He was very, very powerful, very, very powerful person who held back the Asura invasion during his time as king, as actively as king. So that is Parikshit, and maybe we'll stop there, see the next verse kind of goes in a slightly different direction. So we'll stop there, and we'll see if there are any questions. Thank you for all your comments. There are several devotees from Mexico. Let's see. It's nice to see everybody here in the list. I don't see any questions yet. There's Priyahita. So, Ashwatthama is immortal. Well, everybody's immortal. His material body is not immortal, but he's a soul like everybody else. He doesn't stay in this world forever. I mean, that would really be a cruel punishment. So, Graha means planets or constellations. That's a question. Well, let's go to our trusty Sanskrit dictionary. Look up the word graha, which literally means something, grasping, which is an interesting word. It's cognate with English words like grab and grasp. So graha literally means seizing, laying hold of, holding. And it's a planet as seizing or influencing the destinies of human beings in a supernatural manner. So graha, sometimes in certain contexts in Sanskrit, 5 planets are enumerated, which are Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. So the planets closest to Earth. So it can also, let's see, I'm looking for constellation. I don't see constellation here. So it does appear just to mean planet, at least in the dictionary. So let's see. Oh yes, Brahmatirtha. I got that question on astrology. So question in Spanish, I'll translate after Parikshit. After Parikshit, was there did the Pandav dynasty continue? For some time it did. Janamejaya was the son of Parikshit. He had a son. So I think if you look at the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam, it'll probably talk about that. So from France, bonjour. So thank you all very much for listening. And I think I definitely got all the questions that are there. As soon as I'm about to hang up, someone tells me there's more questions, but those are all the questions that manifested. So thank you all for listening. Hope we'll all be together again next Sunday. Hare Krishna.